cubicat.com. My name is Mazir Sharifian and I'd like to show you how to do a 3D projection with 3D shadows in the scene in After Effects. Okay, about the 3D projection, you might already know that in After Effects, but where is the problem? When a 2D photo is projected into a 3D space by a light, after that you want to add a 3D object in the projected scene and you want that object to cast a proper shadow, you get into trouble because you got your projected light on your way. Basically what happens is that it casts shadows as well, and unfortunately you can't exclude a certain object casting shadow from a certain light in After Effects. So how to solve this problem, it'll explain in this tutorial. Before I begin, I'd like to explain the whole idea of 3D projection and casting shadows theoretically, because I've seen people not being able to understand these steps exactly and having to get back and check the entire tutorials for it and follow these steps again. So here I'll explain in theory, and next time if you get into trouble and forgot what to do, you won't need to check the entire tutorial. Just check this first part I'm going to show you in a moment. In theory, we've got our 2D image as reference. We create a 3D image of it. We create a light and a camera as well. We copy the position of the camera to the 3D image and the light, so they will be at the same position. But of course we need the 3D image a little bit in front of the light so it could be projected by the light, and we need to scale it down like an old film slide. About the position of the 3D planes, we need to check that with our 2D image, which is our reference, and we might use a grid effect to simplify that. Now that we know about the position and the scale of our objects in the scene, we go to the 3D and material options. Of course, the light cast shadows box needs to be checked about the config of the 3D image. The cast shadows needs to be only because we just need the casting shadows, not the image. The light transmission needs to be 100%. And you could set accept lights off. That's optional, of course. Now our material options on the 3D planes are to be like accept shadows needs to be on, but accept lights needs to be off. We don't want the projected light to affect the projected image. Now these you might already know. What's new is that we want a 3D object in the scene. To solve the problem of the having double shadows of the 3D object, the theory is that you separate the shadow scene from the main scene by precomposing and using expressions to synchronize the movement of the 3D object and your 3D camera between the two compositions. Some concepts might be hard to understand, but you'll get them later. Okay, now you see what is going on here. With the camera, the shadow comp is separated from the main scene, and their movements are parented through some expressions. Now let's start from the beginning. I'll import my PSD file. Actually, this photo, I've got it from this webpage, wallpapermania.eu. You might surf through that webpage. It got a lot of wallpapers, nice ones, HD ones, 1080. So this better suits me for this tutorial, and I've managed to take the motorcycle away from the background by Photoshop. I've got my background and the original image, of course, to use as a reference here. For now I don't need that. Let's set up the scene. I need to rename this to the reference image, right? I need another duplicate of it called the projected image. I don't need the motorcycle for now. And of course I need the projected image in 3D. Okay, now I'll create a camera. Make it 50 because it matches the composition. I'll make a light as well, a point light. Rename this maybe to a projected light. And remember to check the cast shadows on. Okay, I've got my light. Now I take the position of my camera to the position of the projected light and the projected image. I copy this, paste it, and paste it for these two 3D objects. Put this projected image a bit in front of the light, the projected light, and scale it down to about maybe 1 or maybe less, 0.7. And from here now on I change the scale manually so it'll match the reference image. See, it almost matches. Now the 3D image and the 2D image are at the same place, so from now on I can use this reference image. And one more thing is that for the configuration of these elements, for the projected image, by double clicking the A button, you'll be seeing the material options. For material options of the projected image, you need to turn the accept lights off because you don't want the projected light to affect your scene, right? As you can see, if you turn it on, the lights is going to affect the image, the projected image, and it's going to have a kind of vignette around the scene. You don't want that. Actually, it's perfectly lighted, the scene. You don't need extra lighting. So I turn that off. Now I'll create a solid, call it maybe the ground surface, make it 3D. And now I'll get back here, and for the shadow, casting shadow, I turn it to only. Basically the comp is going to be blacked out, and what is happening here is you're seeing the shadow of this projected image. Only the shadow is casted on the ground surface. Now when you increase the light transmission, you are going to see the actual image, and what is happening here is that it's turning the black shadow into the actual image, casting the shadow. You see, instead of seeing a black shadow, you're seeing the actual image, which is casting shadow. Now that you would be seeing it, let's keep on and come to the properties of the ground surface and turn the accept lights off. So again, it won't affect the light, won't affect the projected image on our surface. Now that we have set up our scene, we check this to hide the projected image and use the reference for our positioning of the planes. To position a plane, you could decrease the opacity and change the location, or you could add a grid effect. So you would be seeing the perspective well enough. If you want to change the location using the gizmos here, if it's going really slowly, just hold down the shift key to shift the movement. And now all I have to do is use these tools, the rotation and the selection tool, to align this with our background image, background reference. Okay, I'll change it to 270, scale it up so it'll cover this entire desert. I'll put it here, maybe a little bit, just maybe a little bit of angled view here. I put it down here. Okay, that's too much. I'll get it back maybe here. I think that's okay. Okay, for these hills, the background, I'll mix them with the sky. Now to make the sky, I've got the ground. I'll duplicate this. Okay, rename this to sky. From now on, it's going to be much more easier. Actually, setting up this scene for the 3D planes is easy because I've got two planes. But for a more complicated perspectives, like some internal views, like in a room, it's going to be in some cases a bit more complicated. But all you need to do is to change the depth of the planes and basically move around so you'll get the best perspective you've got. Actually, you need to search for the vanishing point of this scene and then move the planes so you will be seeing the grids going to the vanishing points. And when you've got your first plane, the other ones are going to be settled easier because you've got the orientation of your scene. So remember, the first surface needs to be rotated through the orientation, and when it's settled at the right orientation, from that moment you could be changing the rotations. For example, in this case, I'll change the location of this sky surface into 90 degrees. Now you would be seeing that from here. Again, it's 90 degrees on our main surface, ground surface. I could reposition this from the top view. I'll get back here, the active camera, and here we go. We've got our scene. So that we have the scene settled, I don't need the reference. I'll have my projected image back, and of course turn these effects off. The first thing you're going to mention is that it's going to be a blurry scene. That's because of the shadow map resolution. To increase the shadow map resolution, you go to comp settings. Again, before doing so, you would be seeing this. It's because this plane is not big enough to do that. It's easy to just select it and increase that, so it'll be matching the comp size. Now I'll get back to the composition settings, Ctrl K. In advanced, you go to options, and here you'll be increasing the shadow map resolution to maybe 3000. Now you will be seeing the much more better resolution. Actually, I'll get it back to full resolution. Yes. Now I can change the location of the camera, and you will be seeing a 3D projection perfectly match the scene. Now, I want the motorcycle in the scene. I'll check this, make it 3D, and I've got the 3D model inside the 3D scene. Again, from top view, you see that here, right? You can match the position, of course. You could be changing the location, maybe here. Again, I go back to the active camera. About this, these projections, okay, of course I need to turn off the accept shadows and accept lights. Okay, only not off. Now I can see it perfectly. Now that I've got our motorcycle, when I turn it on, the casting shadow, you would be seeing the shadows on our 3D planes casted by the projected light. How to solve that? Because when we want to create another light, for example, a point light, actually for sunlight you need a parallel light, but because I want a blurry shadow, actually I need a shadow diffusion here, and just the point light got one. And for the shadow darkness, I'll decrease that maybe to 60, and just maybe the location for this might be, for example, around here. Again, I could change the location of that here, maybe a bit closer to this image. I'll get back. Okay, I change it to auto. The render is taking much. Okay, I think it's good. Maybe something like that. Actually, it's not the same as the reference, but we just change that. The location, the best location for this. A bit up here, maybe. So there would be no overlap between these two. Maybe change the location of this. Maybe more inside here, or rotation. You see, you could change the rotation and add some corner pins to this 3D image to, you see, don't messing with the real perspective of this image. But I think we're good for now. I've got my image. Now when I change the camera position, I've got two shadows. How to solve this problem? To do that, all you need to do is put this sunlight into another comp, of course with its objects which are needed for the shadow. So I'll duplicate these elements: motorcycle, the ground and sky surfaces, the camera and sunlight. I duplicate them and pre-compose them and put them in a comp called shadow comp. I'll go inside. So this is the shadow comp. I don't need the casting shadow object, and in here I don't need sunlight. And for this I'll need a blending mode like multiply. Now as you can see, if I turn this casting shadow off, you won't be seeing the shadows in the background, but the movement of the camera and the motorcycle are not synced with the shadow scene. To do that, of course you're used to parenting the objects together with this parenting tool provided for you, but to do that when you have two different compositions, you need to use expressions. Before that, I'll change this into main comp. Now I'll go to shadow comp and check these, for example the camera movement, position and rotation of this. To synchronize the changing parameters here of the camera 2 to the camera in main comp, all you need to do is alt clicking the stopwatch, keep the dot position here and add a link to another comp, another layer. Okay, what is the comp called? It is called the main comp. What is the layer called? It's called the camera. Of course the capital letters is important here. Okay, now it's going to get the location of this camera 2 from the layer called camera in the comp called main comp, and it get that position. Here we go. I'll do that for the orientation as well. Orientation. Oops, there's no need to enter, you just click somewhere else, so deselect this panel. For rotation, again, in some cases, X rotation, I don't know, it might be a problem in scripting, or there is a problem, I don't know, but you can do that with this X rotation. If you paste that, it will have a problem parenting these two objects. To solve this problem, we have something similar to this X rotation, which is rotation X, capital X. It's the same as the other one, so now it'll be okay. Again, I'll go for this Y rotation, I'll paste this link and I'll type rotation Y. For Z, rotation Z. And one more thing, in some cases when you want to move the camera, you need to link the point of interest of the camera as well, which is here. By clicking the A button, you'll be seeing the point of interest. Just alt click on that, paste this for the point of interest as well to be linked. Basically link all the parameters just to be safe. Now when I get back here and change the camera location or orientation or the position, you would be seeing that the shadow would be moving as well. We'll do the same for the 3D object. We go into the shadow scene. For the motorcycle, I alt click the position and change the layer name into motorcycle dot position. I'll keep that. For orientation, again, for X rotation, maybe you don't need that for the X and Y and Z rotation, but sometimes you might change that. Even you could change the scale of this object if you want to change the scale of, for example, your 3D object. Again, you need to link that together as well. So now when I change the location of this motorcycle, it'll be changing. And now all I have to do is to create an animation, move through this 3D space. Of course, you can't move it backward, you can't dolly out because the image is not that large. You just need to dolly in, or maybe rotate, or something else, or tilt and pan, or rotate again. But as you can see, when I change the position or rotation of this 3D object, the shadow moves as well. Thanks again for watching this tutorial. My name is Mazhar Sharifian from cubicat.com. Hope to see you soon.